Implementing Information Security. Lesson 9. Introduction. SEC SDLC implementation phase accomplished through changing configuration and operation of organization information system. Implementation includes changes to procedures, people, hardware, software, and data. Organize translates blueprint for information security into a concrete project plan. In general, the implementation phase is accomplished by changing the configuration and operation of the organization information system to make them more secure. It includes changes procedure, people, hardware, software, data. During the implementation phase, the organization translates its blueprint for information security into a concrete project plan. Project management for information security. Once organization's vision and objectives are understood, process for creating project plan can be defined. Major steps in executing project plan are planning the project, supervising task and action step, wrapping up. Each organization must determine its own project management methodology for IT and information security projects. Project management in project management in the implementation phase. Once the organization's vision and objectives are documented and understood, the process for translating the blueprint into a project plan can be defined. Organizational change is not easily accomplished. The major steps in executing the project plan are planning the project, supervising tasks and action steps within the project plan, wrapping up the project plan. The project plan can be developed in any two number of ways. Developing project plan. Creation of project plan can be done using work breakdown structure. Major project tasks in WBS are work to be accomplished. Individuals assign start and end dates, amount of effort required, estimated capital and non-capital expenses, and identification of dependencies between among tasks. The major WBS tasks further divided into smaller tasks or specific action steps. Developing the project plan. Planning for the implementation phase involves the creation of detailed project plan. The creation of the project plan can be accomplished using a simple planning tool such as the work breakdown structure. Project plan consideration. As project plan is developed, adding detail is not always straightforward. Special considerations include financial, priority time and schedule, staff, procedure, procurement, organizational feasibility, and training. Project plan consideration. As the project plan is developed, adding detail to the plan is not always straightforward. Special consideration include financial, priority, time, staff, scope, procurement, organizational, feasibility, training, and introduction, and change control and technology governance. Financial consideration. No matter what information security need exists, amount of effort that can be expended depends on fund available. Cost-benefit analysis must be verified prior to development of project plan. Both public and private organizations must budgetary constraints through of a different nature. To justify an amount budgeted for a security project at either public or for-profit organizations may be useful to benchmark experience of similar organizations. Financial considerations. No matter what information security needs exist in the organization, the amount of effort that can be expended depends on the fund available. A cost-benefit analysis prepared earlier in the life cycle must be verified prior to the development of the project plan. Priority consideration. In general, most important information security controls should be scheduled first. Implementation of controls is guided by prioritization of threats and value of threatened information assets. Priority considerations. In general, the most important information security controls should be scheduled first. The implementation of controls is guided by the prioritization of threats and the value of information assets threatened. A control that costs a little more and it's a little lower on the prioritization list but addresses many more specific vulnerabilities and threats have higher priority than a less expensive, higher priority component that only addresses one particular vulnerability. Time and scheduling consideration. Time impacts dozens of points in the development of a project plan, including time to order, receive, install, and configure security control, time to train the users, time to realize return of investment of control, time and scheduling consideration. Time is another constraint that has a broad impact on the development of project plans. Staffing consideration. Lack of enough qualified, trained, and available personnel constraint project plan. Experienced staff often needed to implement available technologies and develop and implement policies and training programs. Staffing consideration. The lack of enough qualified, trained, and available personnel also constrain the project plan. Experienced staff is often needed to implement available technologies and to develop and implement policies and training programs. If no staff members are trained to configure a firewall that is being purchased, someone must be trained or someone must be hired who is experienced with that particular technology. Procurement consideration. IT and information security planners must consider acquisition of goods and services. Many constraints of selection process for equipment and services in most organizations, specifically in selection of service vendors or products from manufacturers or suppliers. These constraints may eliminate a technology from realm of possibilities. Procurement consideration. All IT and information security planners must consider the acquisition of goods and services. There are a number of constraints on the selection process for equipment and services in most organizations, especially in the selection of certain service vendors or projects from manufacturers and suppliers. Organizational feasibility consideration. Policies required time to develop. New technologies required time to be installed, configured, and tested. Employees need training on new policies and technology and how new information security program affects their working lives. Changes should be transparent to system users unless the new technology intended to change procedures. Organizational feasibility consideration. Policies required. Okay. The goal of the project plan is to avoid new security components directly impacting the day-to-day operation of the individual employees. Training and introduction consideration. Size of organization and normal conduction of business may preclude a single large training program on a new security procedures or technology. Thus, organization should be conduct phase-in or pilot approach to implementation. Train and indoctrination consideration. The size of the organization and the normal conduct of business may preclude a single large training program on security procedures or technologies. Scope considerations. Project scope concern boundaries of the time and effort hours needed to deliver planned features and quality level of project deliverables. In the case of information security, project plans should not attempt to implement entire security system at one time. Scope consideration. The need for project management. Project management requires unique set of skills and true understanding of a broad body or specialized knowledge. Most information security projects require trained project manager or skilled IT manager versed in project management techniques. The need of project management. Supervising implementation. Some organizations may designate a champion from general management community of interest to supervise implementation of information security project plan. An alternative is a designated senior IT manager or CIO to lead implementation. Optimal solution is to designate a suitable person from information security community or of interest, up to each organization to find most suitable leadership for successful project implementation. Executing the plan, negative feedback ensure project progress is measured periodically. Measured result compared against expected result. When significant deviation occurs, corrective action taken. Often, project manager can adjust one or three parameters for tasks being corrected, effort and money allocated, scheduling impact, quality or quantity of deliverable. Once a project is underway, it is managed to completion using a process known as a negative feedback loop or cybernetic loop, which ensures that progress is measured periodically. Project wrap-up. Project wrap-up usually handled as procedural task and assigned to mid-level IT or information security manager. Collect documentation, finalize status report, and deliver final report and presentation at wrap-up meeting. Goal of wrap-up to resolve any pending issues, critic or overall project effort, and draw conclusions about how to improve process. Technical topics of implementation. Some parts of implementation process are technical in nature, dealing with application of technology. Others are not, dealing instead with human interface to technical systems. Technical topics of implementation. Conversion strategies. First is direct changeover, also known as going cold turkey, involves stopping the old method and beginning the new phase. Implementation. The most common approach involves rolling out a piece of system across the entire organization. Pilot implementation involves implementing all security improvements in a single office, department, or division and resolving issues within that group before expanding to the rest of the organization. Parallel operation involve running the new method alongside the old method. The bullseye method. The bullseye method of InfoSec project planning. By reviewing the information security blueprint and the current state of the organization information security efforts in terms of the four layers of the bullseye method model. Project planners can find guidance about where to lobby for expanded information security capabilities. This approach relies on the process of evaluating project plans in a progression through four layers: policy, network, system, and applications. To outsource or not, just as some organizations outsource operations, organizations can outsource part of all of information security programs. Due to the complex nature of arts outsourcing, advisable to hire best outsourcing specialists and retain best attorneys possible to negotiate in very legal and technical interests. When an organization has outsourced IT services, information security should be part of a contract engagement arrangement with the outsourcer. Technology governance and change control. Technology governance complex process an organization uses to manage impact and cost from technology implementation, innovation, and adolescence. By managing the process of change, organization can improve communication, enhance coordination, reduce unintended consequence, improve quality of service, and ensure groups are complying with policies. Other factors that determine the success of an organization's IT and information security are technology governance and change control processes. The culture of change management. One of the oldest models of making change is the Lewin change model, which consists of unfreezing, thawing out hard and fast habits and established procedures, moving the transition between the old way and the new, refreezing the integration of the new method into the organizational culture by creating an atmosphere in which the changes are accepted as the preferred way of accomplishing the requisite task. Consideration for organizational change. Step can be taken to make organization more amenable to change. Reducing resistance to change from beginning and planning process. Develop culture that supports change. Considerations for organizational change. In order to make organization more available to change, some steps can be taken. This includes reducing resistance to change from the beginning of the planning process and steps taken to modify the organization to be more accepting and change. Reducing resistance from change to the start. The more ingrained the previous method and behaviors, the more difficult the change. Best to improve interaction between affected members of organization and project planners in early project phases. Three steps process for project managers. Communicate, educate, and involve. Reduce resistance to change from the start. The level of resistance to change impact the ease of which an organization works through the process described. The primary mechanism used to overcome this resistance to change is to improve the interaction between the affected members of the organization and project planners in the earlier phases of SEC SDLC. Developing a culture that supports changes. Ideal organization fosters resilience to change. Resilience organization has come to expect change as a necessary part of organizational culture, and embracing change is more productive than fighting it. To develop such a culture, organization must successfully accomplish many projects that require change. The level of resistance to change impacts to ease with which organization works through the process described. Thank you for listening.